Everyone, my name is Emily, and I'm the Chief Partnerships and Program Officer at Newman's Own Foundation. And it gives me great joy to share a little bit about the folks and the organizations that have come together to make this prize possible. So first, you have Newman's Own Foundation, which, as many of you may know, continues the work of Paul Newman and his commitment that he started with Newman's Own to use all the money that it receives, 100% of the profits and royalties from the sale of Newman's Own products, in service of our mission at the foundation to nourish and transform the lives of children who face adversity. And we're really excited with this open call for applications, the second Food Justice for Kids Prize, to be working with some great partners, including Humanitix, which is a ticketing platform that dedicates 100% of its profits to charity, as well as the Henry P. Kendall Foundation. And they aim to foster a resilient and healthy food system in New England. And we're very honored to have Andy from the Kendall Foundation here with us as well, and the Hunger to Health Collaboratory, otherwise known as H2HC, which you may hear us reference. And they work to uplift innovative food and nutrition work that advances health equity. And Nicolene, their executive director, is going to be with us today as well. Each partner brings with them a depth and wealth of experience that we're so honored to have to really help spark and support and resource your innovative ideas that will help us in this next Food Justice for Kids Prize support the next generation of food citizens. We encourage you to learn more about them on the Food Justice for Kids webpage. And with that, thank you for moving to the next slide. Why are we all here and what does food justice for kids mean? You can see here a couple of the bullets, which I won't read point for point, but really where we're looking to work together to amplify the work, the reach, the results of you and your wonderful organizations and communities, really in the hope and effort to drive sustainable and lasting change that is meant to ensure children can access, can learn about, and really engage with nutritious, culturally relevant food at school, at home, and in their communities. Jackie, back to you.
Thanks, Emily. So this is the programmatic overview for the Food Justice for Kids Prize. We'll be going into the focus areas more deeply here in a few slides. You'll see here the eligibility, nonprofits, tribes, schools, and school districts, just to name a few. There will be as many as 14 organizations. With that, I'll be sharing more on the next slide. And there's additional opportunities as a prize recipient. For one, attending the Hunger to Health Collaboratory 2026 Fall Summit, as well as participating in our Newman's Own Foundation virtual learning sessions. And then right quick, as the next slide comes up, for those of you that may not have heard my introduction, I'm Jackie Blackbird. I'm the Indigenous Communities Officer at Newman's Own Foundation, and I also am the project lead for the Food Justice for Kids Prize. So moving on to this slide, we have this year $1.4 million in grant funding, up from 1.2 million last year. And you'll see here the breakdown. We will be awarding 5 grants in the Indigenous food justice space, 5 for nutrition education and school food. And then Emily shared about our funding co-partners. We will have 2 grants focused in the New England area around food justice for kids. And then we will have nutrition education and school food policy projects at the state and national level awarded as well through the Food Justice for Kids Prize. And new this year, from our 2024 grant cycle, we are welcoming nominations from community members, or maybe it's a staff member working at an organization to really share and shine light on organizations doing great work. So a nomination is not required for you to apply for the Food Justice for Kids Prize. You can go right to the Just Fund website to apply, but it's really great to see those nominations come across and hear from those in the community that may have been touched by your organization. So I mentioned earlier I was going to talk a little bit about the program focus areas. So for Indigenous food justice, you'll see here it's about advancing food sovereignty, as well as engaging youth in growing, gathering foods related to maybe their indigenous region and area that they live in. And some examples of projects around Indigenous food, it could be the rematriation of traditional and nutritious foods, which are affordable. We've seen community or school gardens growing traditional foods, as well as schools. You'll hear about a great program today. And then just one other one wanted to share, an example is, the fact that you could have an Indigenous farm to school program as well. So with that, I'm going to pass it on to Christina.
Thanks, Jackie, and hi, everyone. Thanks so much for being here with us. My name is Christina Chauvenet. I am the Child Nutrition Officer here at Newman's Own Foundation. Want to just expand on some of those potential projects around nutrition education and school food. You'll see that ampersand in the name of that focal area. Really, the work in this area could be related to nutrition education. It could be related to school food, or it could be at the intersection of nutrition education and school food. So nutrition education could be taking place in a community setting. It could be taking place embedded in a school setting. And you could also be working on work related to the advancement of access to or quality of school meals. So things that are related, particularly, I can just share a little around that, those policy areas, coalition work to advance farm to school or access to school meal programs, all would be eligible in this program area. And with that, we want to make sure that you all get a chance to hear from some of our phenomenal Food Justice for Kids Prize recipients in 2024. And we're going to first hear from Anne Mortel. Anne is from the Center for Ecoliteracy, which is doing fantastic work to advance food justice for kids in California. So I'm going to turn it over to Anne to talk more about her work.
Thanks, Christina. Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me. I'm the Director of Outreach and Communications at the Center for Ecoliteracy and have been working on school nutrition advocacy for 15 years. We are so grateful to be a past prize recipient and grantee of the Newman's Own Foundation. Um, I remember when we learned about this opportunity and said, that's us, let's do this, right? So I am in your shoes and giving you that good energy right now to get to the finish line. We've really received wonderful support, and I applaud the foundation for their approach to philanthropy and for investing in community-based solutions. And so I'm excited to tell you about ours. We are reimagining school food as a pathway for learning and change. So for over 30 years, we've transformed education in classrooms, cafeterias, gardens, partnering with educators, school districts, and children to increase access to nutritious meals at school. We'll go to the next slide. So this is our core initiative, California Food for California Kids. The idea is to really inspire schools to serve fresh, locally sourced meals and engage students in the connections between food, culture, health, and the environment. So the California Food for California Kids network includes over 170 school districts across the state. And the school nutrition leaders in our network drive both our programming and our policy platform. So a 2020 survey of the network showed that permanent universal school meals or free breakfast and lunch at school was their top priority. So that led us to sponsor the Free School Meals for All legislation that ultimately led to California becoming the first state to pass universal school meals. So this accomplishment really remains central to our work. We continue to advocate to protect the School Meals for All program and for complementary programs to support more fresh and local school meals. And our programming focuses on building school meal programs that are really focused on fresh and local food. So as a Newman's Own grantee this year, our goal is to add 20 school districts to the network and prioritizing districts that have been impacted by federal funding cuts to nutrition and garden education programming, including SNAP Ed programming, and prioritizing districts that have a high percentage of students who qualify for free or reduced price school meals. And I'm excited to say we're halfway to our goal. We've added 10 school districts so far just in the first quarter. So we're really thrilled about that. And last year, our goal was to add 15 districts, and we added 20. So I hope we exceed our goal this year as well. We can go to the next slide. So network members, they gain access to leadership development opportunities such as technical assistance, networking sessions with their peers or experts, support for special events and projects, and training about raising their voices to advocate for transforming school food policy. We can go to the next slide. All of our offerings serve our goal of increasing underserved students' access to fresh, local, culturally relevant school meals and nutrition education. The next slide. We are gearing up for Collective Action Week, which is an opportunity for the California Food for California Kids Network to celebrate serving more fresh, California-grown food as part of a powerful statewide collective impact. Our idea is that when students see their own cultures reflected on their lunch tray and learn about the farmers and foods in their community, they're building connections between food, culture, health, and the environment. So Collective Action Week is a chance for these school districts to make all of these connections visible and delicious, of course. On the next slide, our newest resource will support districts in serving local, culturally relevant school meals during Collective Action Week. So our California Flavors recipe book provides 12 freshly prepared plant-forward recipes that reflect the rich cultural diversity we have here in California and hopefully offer some new and exciting options to students. I think the link there is in the chat, and on the next slide, I'm going to show you a few of the recipes. Here's 4 of the 12. We've already seen school districts serving the Caribbean-inspired jerk bowl and the mango carrot lassi. We just released this resource, so we're really excited to see school districts already pick it up. One school district even served the lassi blended with a student power blender bike, so innovative solutions all around. And that's it for me. So on the next slide, just thank you for having me, and I look forward to keeping in touch. You can subscribe to our newsletters, find us on social media, and I'll drop my email in the chat too. So if you have any questions, you can feel free to reach out. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Anne. Appreciate you sharing the work that you all are doing and the systems level work that you take, and also engaging with folks at that community level. And now we're going to hear from another group staying on the West Coast, but just moving a little bit south. Excited to hear from the Keres Children's Learning Center and the exciting work they're doing to bring Indigenous food and incorporate it in school education. So I'm going to turn it over to Curtis Chavez and Dale Naranjo to take you through some of that work.
Great. Thank you for that, Christina. So it's a pleasure to be here with you all today. My name is Dr. Curtis Chavez, and I'm the Chief Executive Officer for the Keres Children's Learning Center. And along with me on this presentation is Dale Naranjo, our outdoor educator, and can go ahead and introduce himself as well.
Hello, everybody. I'm Dale Naranjo. I'm currently working here at KCLC, Keres Children's Learning Center, as a outdoor educator and language and culture teacher.
So a little bit about the Keres Children's Learning Center. We are a Native American language immersion school. We're a 501c3 accredited through the American Montessori Society. And our main mission here is to reclaim the education of our children and revitalizing the Keres language in our community too as well. And so as you see on our mission is the Keres Children's Learning Center strives to reclaim our children's education and honor our heritage by using a comprehensive cultural and academic curriculum to assist families in nurturing Keres-speaking, holistically healthy, community-minded, and academically strong students. And so we have currently 30 children here at our center. They range from birth all the way to 15. Our youngest child now is 3 months old, and our oldest child is 15 years of age too as well. And we're really we're really appreciative of the Newman's Own grant that we have received. It's helping us out with our outdoor education program here, which Dale oversees, and he's going to share you some more of what we're doing here. And a lot of the aspect of what we're doing in our outdoor education is really teaching the kids our agricultural practices that we have had in our communities since time immemorial. So he'll talk a little bit more of what he does, and then also the language is really important in the stories and everything that is shared within the curriculum when Dale is out there in our agricultural fields, our outdoor beds, or when they're cooking the meals and butchering too as well. So he'll go ahead and speak more to that. If we could go to the next slide.
You want me to go from here, Kirk?
Yes, yes.
Okay. All right. So I have a few pictures here, and I named it being self-sustainable. So this is a technique of farming that we do know traditionally, besides the tiller that you see there in the picture, but everything else was done by hand. So I have a picture of a couple of students that I taught them the meaning of making borders and why we make borders, why we section off our plants. So that was one whole lesson. And there you can see them getting ready for the irrigation. They're building up the berm so they can hold that water for that certain part of the field. And here we have in the middle, we have one student which is running the tiller, which is turning the soil. Since we have such hard clay soil, the tiller is a consistent running tool that we do have, which for the time I do have with the students, it comes into hand when we have such a short period of time. And so usually here I'll have one disking or running a tiller between while I have the students like you see in the back, they're cleaning in between the corn rows to get the weeds out. And that the far picture on the right is a finished product of what they had done. So it's teaching them the process of farming in a traditional field like that. And if you want to go on to the next slide, that's fine. And so garden beds, we have this one as raised garden beds. I myself wasn't really familiar with raised garden beds until I did start working here and did a little bit more research on them because I was more into the traditional side of gardening and planting to get our crops. And so here we have the students are setting up the stabilizers for the tomato plants. So in there they did about I want to say it was about 10 plants. That raised garden bed at the end was full. I mean like full of tomatoes. The students are going out there during recess time picking to take home or even just add to a meal. And they did add some of that to a meal for like some of the meetings and salads and stuff. And there we have in a little hoop area, we have gourds and watermelons that were planted by some of the students. And the one on the far right is which is that one? I believe that is their tomato plants. Yes. That was after right before they finished planting that whole raised bed. But that's what the transplants they did put in into that one there. So just giving him a whole different broad aspect of not just always having to plant there at a field, that it is possible to do it in a box full of fertilizer and the soil. You go on to the next. I know we're on time. And so here, this is living off the land. So is letting them know, like I said, of being self-sustainable. So they did go and harvest the corn, which they did implement into meals. So you can see they did harvest a good load of sweet corn. That's just one of many pickings that they did go through. And I do have in the middle picture a couple of my adolescent students which are preparing, I believe, on that one to steam the corn to go ahead and feed for the school. And the far right picture is one of the many pictures that we do have of them after harvesting a pig. So everything was everything that they do is implemented into the meals. You can go to the next. And so winterizing raised beds is another thing that me and the students are getting into. I have my adolescents there that are adding the hoops onto the big raised bed, and I have my primary class there, which are getting the winter crops ready to be planted.
I think we might have lost him there he's having trouble with his internet too as well. And so um, there's a lot of different
Oh,
initiatives that we do. Are you there, Daryl? Yeah. And so again, going back to the agricultural fields, to the raised garden beds, and even to the livestock too as well. We try to implement that into our outdoor education program, and then also creating meals for them to show that they're able to live off the land, really with the corn, the tomatoes, the watermelons, the melons that are harvested in the fall months too. And really just it's so exciting to see the children know that they planted this produce and that they're able to eat and feed themselves too as well. And so we're really excited that we're able to support the children. And Newman's Own is a part of this too as well, and in helping us develop the outdoor education program as well.
I'm back. My bad.
I think that's all
That's
we
my
have here.
yeah. My bad. I got kicked off there.
No worries. Thank you so much for joining us today and sharing. And then if you'd like to learn more about the Keres and the Montessori school, the links are in the chat, so definitely feel free to check those out. So we wanted to take a moment here just to give you an overview of the grant timeline. As most of the applications we opened on February 17th, and then the nominations will close a week in advance. So if you would like to share, the link to the nominations, feel free to do that. Again, it is not needed for you to apply for the Food Justice for Kids Prize. You can go directly to our the Just Fund page to access the application. And then should you be selected as one of the finalists, we'll have interviews scheduled for the beginning of August. And then disbursement will be in September, October. So moving on to the next slide, I will turn it over to Rachel.
Thanks, Jackie. Hello, everybody. My name is Rachel Agolia, and I'm the grants manager at Newman's Own Foundation. I'm going to give just a quick overview on how to apply for the prize via the Just Fund platform. So the first step, if you're new to Just Fund, is to register your organization and create an account. And you can see a little screenshot of that on the left-hand side of this slide. It's a super easy process. You just put some information in and click a blue registration button. And once that organization account is created, you'll be walked through the steps to build out an organization profile. And Just Fund calls this an organization common application profile. It includes basic information such as your mission statement, tax exempt status or tax status, and some information about the communities you serve, stuff like that. And this profile becomes a part of your Food Justice for Kids Prize application. And it also then can be reused again and again to apply for other funding opportunities that you might see posted in Just Fund. It works a lot in the way that a common application does when applying for colleges and universities. If you've used Just Fund before to apply for something, then you already have an organization profile. Every organization just has one profile in Just Fund. So in that case, you'll just log into your existing account. You'll have an opportunity to review your profile and modify it as you see fit, and then you can start with applying for the prize. The Food Justice for Kids Prize application has just 3 additional questions above and beyond the organization profile. And you'll also be prompted to upload 2 documents. And one of them is a project budget, and the other is a SMARTIE goals worksheet that my colleague Christina will talk about in a minute. Both of those documents have templates that you can use, and you can access those templates either on the prize website or embedded directly into the application, and you can just click to download them and utilize them. If at any point through the application process you need technical assistance, Just Fund has a knowledge base on their website that covers all aspects of how the platform works. And they also host 2 monthly webinars about the application process that you can register for. If you have additional questions that aren't answered in their knowledge base or through these webinars, their team is also available via email, and you can reach them at info@justfund.us. They are generally available business hours, Monday through Friday, and they respond to inquiries in the order that they receive them. And I'll leave you with just one final tip before we move on to more exciting aspects of this webinar. And that is that I know it's human nature to wait until the last minute to apply for things. I do it, we all do it. But in this case, we really do strongly encourage you to start the registration process and start your application early, well in advance of the April 28th deadline, so that you have all the time you need to build out your organization profile and to complete the questions. So you could just do it. You could do it right now. You could do it right after this webinar. You just go to justfund.us and get started. And with that, I'll pass it over to you, Christina.
Yes, thanks so much, Rachel. And as somebody who has written many grants in my own time, yes, totally understand that and encourage people, even if you need a little more time to get the application together, to go ahead and get that Just Fund set up so that you have that sort of logistical piece done. And moving to the application, SMARTIE goals that Rachel mentioned, that is going to be one of the key attachments that you share with this application. You can see the acronym there. Many of you may have experience with SMART goals. Maybe even some of you have done SMARTIE goals. There's a couple of different acronyms. This is the working definition that we are using. It's really a way to have you create some goals that are geared around that outcome that you're tracking to, and share with us how you're going to implement that. So we have a template that we've provided to you. We encourage you to write brief goals, 2 to 3 goals around those SMARTIE elements, and include the age range of the children that you will be focusing on in this project. And then describe how you'll measure that success, really get into the implementation of that. You'll submit those SMARTIE goals in a PDF format and upload them as an attachment. And if you haven't created SMARTIE goals before, or even if you have, here are some tips on how you might create those goals and some resources. We use the definition from the Management Center. They have a lot of really great resources and sample goals on their website. So we're dropping that link into the chat right now. And just a reminder, these goals can be relevant whether you're working at that very grassroots level all the way up to the national level, and really thinking about how you are going to operationalize and measure success. We do want to balance in those goals. We want you to be ambitious with the goals, but also be realistic. We can't expect, for example, kids to triple their fruit and vegetable consumption within the period of a grant period. So encourage that balance there for you to really figure out what's that sweet spot in the middle of where you can really be reaching, but also be realistic with the resources and the scope of your project. I mentioned that we would have 2 to 3 SMARTIE goals. We are going to evaluate them on the quality. So it's not automatically that 3 SMARTIE goals are better than 2 or vice versa. Really just want to see how those goals are going to ladder up to you moving the needle on food justice for kids. And then remember, you will report back on these goals. So again, that balance of realistic and ambitious there. And we also encourage you, we know that grant work and project work around this often spans across typical fiscal cycles. We do want to have you in these SMARTIE goals provide those time-bound goals. You're welcome to provide additional context about work you've done prior, how it might stretch further, but really those SMARTIE goals should be focused in the time period. Those, and then just a brief note on the application evaluation criteria. We are going to evaluate your application as a whole, and it will be evaluated along these 5 different evaluation criteria. So that is alignment. How well is it aligned with that program focus area and kids under the age of 18? Evidence of impact. And so that is both what evidence you have of past impact and or what evidence that you have that you can move the needle for future impact around that. The innovative approach, how are you changing the status quo for food justice for kids through your project? Community power, that is how you are engaging the communities that you're serving and the stakeholders that you're serving in your project. And then ease of implementation, how well equipped are you and that plan that you have to implement the goals that you have, those SMARTIE goals and ideas around food justice for kids. We are going to share those. We will score these on these criteria. Again, each evaluated equally, maximum of 20 points in each of these areas. They will be evaluated by a mix of Newman's Own Foundation staff as well as external reviewers with expertise in this program area.
Thank you, Christina. Appreciate everyone's participation today. We are now to the Q&A portion, and I'm going to turn it over to Emily. She is going to moderate our live Q&A. So I will hand it over.
Yeah, and thanks to everybody. Enjoyed listening to all that. And the Q&A is on fire, so I'm loving all the questions. I encourage everybody to check out what has been answered already and the FAQs. A lot of those questions, you may find elements and parts of the answers in the FAQs already. So feel free to keep them coming in Q&A, and I'm going to be joined by several colleagues, including our partners over at the Kendall Foundation and Hunger to Health Collaboratory as we answer a few of your questions. So while we get warmed up, I'd love to start, Jackie, with you and tee you up. There's a great question about nominations. And does somebody, like a project, need to be nominated in order to be able to submit an application or even be considered at all?
Great. Thank you, Emily. Yes, so a nomination is not required for the Food Justice for Kids prize. So you can go directly to the Just Fund website and find our, well, you can go to our Food Justice for Kids prize webpage. You'll find the link to Just Fund, but you can access Just Fund and apply. You do not need a nomination to apply. And there is not, also just adding to that, there's no additional weight given to applications who are nominated.
Yeah, great, Jackie. I'll add, because you may not actually see this process happening, once an organization is nominated by a community member, by a board member, by a staff member, by a friend, they will get pinged via email and say, hey, you've been nominated, please apply. So that's what happens on the back end and the purpose of the nomination. All right, Christina, I'm going to tee you up next. And Andy, if you don't mind standing by on deck, I'll turn over to you after Christina. Christina, I'm just looking at the Q&As, and there's some great questions around nutrition ed and school food as it relates to schools as a component. So I'm going to bundle a couple here. So one of them focuses on, programs that are working with children in schools and providing food, but not necessarily through actual meals served. And they give an example of, healthy, locally grown produce boxes to take. Are programs like that eligible? Part one. And then part two, there's another great one that ties about out of school time meal programs. Do you mind addressing that balance? Does it matter? Are they eligible?
Of course. So just a broad statement around food access and how that food access projects and how that relates to the eligibility, particularly under nutrition education and school food, but a lot of this can be applicable to Indigenous food justice as well. So the access component in a project is definitely can be part of a project if there is an education component to it. So really want to focus in on that nutrition education section of that. So for example, a project that had produce boxes as part of a take home of nutrition education programs, those would be eligible. It's the projects that are focused just on access, solely on access, that's the focus. For example, weekend backpack programs, things like that, those would not be eligible for this grant award. So really it's that question around like, is there a nutrition education component to the project? And same thing goes actually for the other questions around school food. Typically, the projects that are providing more sort of pantry type take home food directly, that would not be eligible compared to, for example, if you were working on a project that you wanted to increase the participation rate of children in CFP programs, that's those after school meals that are also participating in national school lunch programs, school breakfast programs, those would be eligible. So I hope that helps to clarify the distinction there. Really, when it's getting more into directly providing food, that's not going to be eligible unless it is paired with an education component in there.
Thanks, Christina. Andy, turning over to you, and then I'll just flag Jackie. I'll pop over to you with a budget question coming up next. Andy, do you want to come off camera or do you want to come off mute?
I think I'm off mute, but I think
Ah,
you're controlling
perfect.
my video.
Oh, all right. Let's see here if I can actually change this. No, I'll ask our colleague Sam if Sam doesn't mind to help. Ah,
There we
perfect.
go.
Thank you, Sam. All right. Sam is working behind the scenes. So I want to give a shout out to our colleague Sam, who's making all this run, knock on wood, pretty smoothly. Andy, welcome. It's so nice to have you from the Kendall Foundation, the Henry P. Kendall Foundation, might I clarify. Would you mind sharing just briefly a little bit about Kendall Foundation? And also, I think folks here, we're seeing a little bit of questions and comments around your New England-based focus. Would you mind elaborating a little bit on that for applicants?
Absolutely. Thank you, Emily. We have been focused on the New England food system. We feel like, given our size and location, we wanted to lean into a region where we felt we could be focused and have an impact. And it has an identity, and there is a regional vision around self-sufficiency and resiliency for the region. It's called the New England Food Vision. It's embodied by several organizations. You can find that through our website. And we've been inspired by it. It's been our North Star for over 15 years now. And we feel that schools in particular are some of the biggest potential drivers of change in the food system. There are millions of students consuming billions of dollars of food, and the food that gets purchased, if it can be regionally sourced, it has health benefits, it has environmental benefits, and it has economic benefits. And so we've really tried to work with districts and campuses across the region to encourage them, incentivize them, recognize them, shine spotlights on them. And I think the criteria and objectives of the Food Justice Prize of Newman's Own Foundation are so well aligned with our interests in New England that we felt that this partnership was a terrific opportunity for us to learn from you and also to support the region together.
Thanks, Andy. And we've been learning so much from you all and your team. So thank you for joining with us. My one last question for you, when you talk about the work in schools and whatnot, if I remember correctly, you're open the specific Kendall Foundation Awards, of which there will be up to two Food Justice for Kids Prize grants that you'll be awarding directly as part of the 14 overall Jackie mentioned.
Yes.
I think you all are open to both Indigenous food justice and nutrition ed school food applications in the New England area. Is that correct?
Absolutely. I think the only our interest is not to try to confuse the
Mm.
criteria and the process that you have well established. So we're really backing away from that. But to the extent that there are strong, compelling candidates in New England, we'd love to see them. We'd love to see them and support them. And so, however they emerge through your process would be terrific.
That's wonderful. And Andy, one of the viewers sent you a heart emoji through Zoom, so I'll plus one that. Thank you,
Terrific.
Andy, so much.
Thank you.
Jackie, over to you, and then I'm going to tee up Christina and Nicolene on some policy-related questions coming right up if you want to be on deck. So Jackie, there's a really interesting question here that I think others will appreciate in terms of budget and what we're asking for in the application. Specifically, are we interested in the budget template that is required when it comes to annual operating budget? Is it the organization's overall annual operating budget or just that one program that they might be applying for, which could be different than the overall organization?
Yeah, sure. As you're thinking about your application in Just Fund, when you fill out your application for your organization details, it will ask for your annual organization budget. And within that section will also be included your EIN number. So we are looking for your organizational budget in that section of your profile. Now, as it relates to the application and our budget template requests, we are asking specifically for the budget for the project. So how will you spend the grant dollars as it relates to your project? And then someone just adding on to that, Emily, someone also had asked, like, do you want to know about like our partners and how they're contributing? We have a section in the budget template to include that as well, if you receive grant dollars towards the project that you are applying for. So, we just ask that you answer whether that is pending or if you've already received it.
Thanks, Jackie. Very helpful. Christina, I'm going to go over to you with one of the questions and then ask Nicolene to dive a little bit into H2HC for us. So, Christina, for you, there is a great question, in my opinion, on direct programming. And is it more likely a direct programming? They don't say specifics, but direct programming in terms of the type of applicant and the proposal, is that more likely to be selected over policy and or coalition building when it comes to applications? What are your thoughts on that?
Sure. And I'll just bundle that, Emily, with a couple other questions I have seen in the chat around evaluation of the application. So I would say, Jackie noted at the beginning, all application, all sizes, whether you're grassroots all the way up to national, eligible for this prize. There is not a preference on size or geography in that sense. We do, though, have a couple of those specific awards. We heard from our colleague Andy Kendall around the Northeast Awards, and then there will be 2 awards specifically around policy. So we are really looking for the quality of idea, that innovation, the implementation pieces. That's what we're going to be evaluating when we look at the overall scores of those applications, not whether it's direct service or it's state level, national level. We anticipate we'll get a mix of those. And we know all of those levels are really important to advancing food justice. So I did see another question about evaluation. It's not that implementation. That's not that necessarily like those easier projects are going to get a higher score. It is that we really want to see that you have the tools in place to implement the project that you are proposing.
Great. Thanks, Christina. Nicolene, are you there? Do you mind coming off mute and or your camera? And let's see, Sam, I may need your help again, if you don't mind putting Nicolene. Wonderful. I see. There you are, Nicolene. Oh, it's lovely to see you again. Welcome. Welcome.
Thank you. We're very
Following on Christina's insights there, I would love, and I think the folks on the webinar would appreciate some, brief background on H2HC, similar to what Andy shared. Could you share a little bit about Hunger to Health Collaboratory? And then also, I'll follow up. I'd love your take on the state and national policy awards that H2HC is providing within the Food Justice for Kids Prize.
Yes, thank you, Emily. That would be my pleasure. So, I guess I would say, as Emily mentioned earlier in this call, the Hunger to Health Collaboratory, which is based in Boston, really focuses on bringing together unusual partners to seek systemic.
Sorry, Nicolene, we're having a little trouble hearing you. We can hear you, but you're just a bit faint.
Yeah, well, I don't know why that would be. Is this getting better?
We can make you out. It's just faint. So why don't we give it a shot and do the best we can? And then we can always follow up if folks are asking questions.
Yeah, I'm terribly sorry. I don't know why that is. So briefly, we're very interested in bringing together unlikely partners who work in innovative systemic solution seeking to food and nutrition challenges. And we are very interested in uncovering new work that advances health equity. So our particular interest, as Emily mentioned, is in work that is demonstrating, and I think that's a very important thing that we haven't really touched on yet in this call, but that shows evidence of impact at the state and national policy levels. And just today on our website, we posted our new report summarizing our November 2025 summit. And I'd really encourage people to look at our website and at that report to get a sense of the work and type of conversations that we are engaged in. I think that would be very helpful background.
Okay, thank you, Nicolene. And folks, if you do have a specific question for Andy or Nicolene, please feel free to drop that into the Q&A and we can surface that or follow up via email if need be. Okay, wonderful. Thank you. Jackie, I'm going to turn to you and then Christina, pop back over to you just so you know I'm headed that way. Jackie, there is a question related to infrastructure cost and operational costs. And can the Food Justice for Kids Prize grant be used towards that type of line item expense? Would you mind answering that?
Sure. Yes, at Newman's Own Foundation, and with the Food Justice for Kids Prize, we do have flexible funding. And so with flexible funding, you are able to use a part of your budget for infrastructure costs. So, I mean, that was one of the things I thought was really great at Newman's Own is that you're able to have your needs met for your specific projects. And that's one thing we really request of you when you submit that budget, just making sure that it's mission aligned with what you are applying for in your grant application. So that's what the reviewers will definitely look for if you include infrastructure line items.
Thanks so much, Jackie. Christina, coming over to you, there's a question here. Let's see if I can combine some of these. There's one about a lunch and learn. I don't know if you see that one, Christina, about teaching youth of all ages how to prepare a low-cost, nutritious meal, and at the end, be sent home with a meal kit.
Mm-hmm.
So would love to expand upon this program through the school district.
Mm-hmm.
So would love your thoughts. And I
Mm-hmm.
know I'll point people before you answer, I'll point people on the FAQs on the website. There is a section of text that tries to address, is this, what types of projects is the prize looking for?
Mm-hmm.
What would fit? So you all, if you have a similar question, may find help there. But would love your take on expanding meal kit programs through the school district. Do you think that would be a good fit, something like that?
Sure. Yeah, thanks for this question. And I see a couple of other similar questions. So if we're not addressing your specific setting right here, I hope that this answer, I'm trying to just pull a couple of different ones together here. I think this is a good example of one that would be eligible because it is paired with an education component. So that's the question I would really encourage you all to think about is the food access, the food that you're providing, is that a mechanism for that education to happen? If the answer to that is yes, then it is eligible. Again, if it is, we recognize the importance of emergency food programs. That's just not within the eligibility of this particular prize. So if it is, for example, again, I'm given backpack programs just as an example, that is distribution only, that's not going to be eligible. And so that would be something out of the scope. Whereas anything that is you're working in a farmer's market setting, in a hospital setting, in a school setting, community center, where you are doing education and that access to food is part of the way that you implement that education, absolutely eligible. And then one other thing, just to wrap up, two other that I saw. Do folks have to have a specific credential to provide this nutrition education? No specific credential. Not people don't need to be RDs. They don't need any MPHs. They don't need any specific credential. we are going to be looking in that evaluation of implementation that you have folks through lived experience, professional credentials, or otherwise that have the experience and expertise to provide that, but it is not a requirement.
Thanks, Christina. And actually, before I let you go, there's another one that might be helpful for folks to hear from you, and it involves SMARTIE goals. So the
Mm.
question is a follow-up to the nutrition education versus direct service.
Mm-hmm.
They host an after-school produce distribution.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Okay, so I think, Christina, you answered the would this be eligible?
Yeah.
And I'm just going to say yes, assuming you meet the eligibility criteria as well. They say for the SMARTIE goals, should these
Mm-hmm.
be more education-based goals versus the number of people served, meals distributed? What are your thoughts
Mm-hmm.
on that?
Yeah, so I think it really depends on the specifics of certainly eligible, as Emily noted, in terms of how you want to craft your Smarty goals. You want to think of them as complementing each other. So it is possible that you might have a Smarty goal that is focused on, for example, the number of folks served, but that should not be the sole focus of the Smarty goals. And do want to see some of those Smarty goals building on each other to ladder more up to those outcomes related to nutrition education.
Thanks, Christina. Nicolene, I'm just going to give you a heads up after Jackie and I answer one or two things. I'm going to turn to you about a question about the difference. What's the difference between nutrition education and school food and the Hunger to Health Collaboratory Nutrition Education School Food Policy grant? So hang tight. I'm just going to give you a second to noodle on that while I turn to Jackie and myself. There was a question too, which I'm sure it always comes up in every info session we do about indirect costs or organizational admin costs, right? So if you look in the FAQs, we do have it in text in writing there. There's no limit in terms of indirect costs if you as the applicant organization, that nonprofit, have an indirect cost that you need to take. Where we do have a cap of 15% is if there is a fiscal sponsor or an external third-party group that is charging for this indirect on top of your grant. So hopefully that helps. It is in writing in the FAQs. And Jackie, I'm going to come to you. There's a question here. For the budget, we always are talking about this as a 2-year grant and award, but the budget is asking for 1 year. So how should folks be thinking about the budget that they're planning for? Is it 1 year or 2 years? And what should they share with us?
Yes, thank you, Emily. So yeah, you will see that we are asking for year one budget. It is for this your project that you were initially submitting for. We at the end of close to the end of year one, we will ask for you to submit another application. And Christina, with our measurement and evaluation portion, does a great job at helping us with action plans as it relates to your specific budgets. So, I guess one thing that we would share with everyone is as you think about your year one budget, think about how that ties to your action plan in year one and then how it would tie in year two. So, as you think about your planning, maybe have in the back of your mind or in your planning phase, like, okay, year two of this grant. We're going to be in another phase of our project and this is what we would like to use the year two budgeting for. So you will have to fill out another application and another grant budget. So just keep that in mind as you're filling out just the year one budget that we are requiring for this application.
Thanks, Jackie. And we are winding down, so we're going to try to tackle a couple more. I'm turning over to Nicolene and then Christina on some policy questions, and then we'll try to scoop up one or two more. Nicolene, so if you don't mind elaborating for the applicants again, because I know you touched on this before, just how should folks think about the two potential awards that H2HC will be funding on state and national focused policy within nutrition education and school food? Versus, and I think Christina then can answer this, the more broad nutrition ed and school food. How are we
Mm-hmm.
thinking about that distinction?
Yes, okay, thank you, Emily. I hope that you can hear me, and I apologize to everyone for this mysterious volume issue. I think because there's been so much information on this call, I think the clearest and most direct way I can answer that is to encourage everyone again to look at our website because our winners last year with this same focus were two wonderful projects, the policy project in Salt Lake City, Utah, and community food advocates based in New York City. And they are wonderful examples of everything we're describing and looking for. So I hope that that will serve Emily
Yeah,
as
thank you. And
a helpful
we're going to
guide and
drop,
answer.
perfect. We're going to drop the URL in the chat as well for folks, so they'll have that at the ready. And Christina, just building on that, because does that mean because we have a policy, state national policy grant that's possible through H2HC, does that mean those are the only two policy awards in the Food Justice for Kids Prize? And then if we could follow up on the
Mhm.
building blocks question. All right, thanks, Christina.
Sure. These are great questions. Love to see these questions coming in. So I appreciate the desire for clarification. It's not limited to two policy awards. So, thank you, Nicolene, for sort of laying out some of those projects that you all have funded in past. But in the 2024 there, and you can see those recipients on our website, and you heard from some of them earlier. Some of that was policy work, some of that was grassroots work. Again, mix of that. So certainly potential for there to be more policy uh, being funded, but it's not as above those two. It's not a specific number. It will be evaluated in the wider pool with the other applicants. And another great question that came in was around the sort of the longer trajectory for policy, and is this like laying groundwork for a longer term policy, or what that might look like? I think, it really depends on your setting. I realize some of you may have coalitions that have been going for a long time. You're trying to do a turnkey piece to move to a higher level of funding, or a new engagement in some area certainly is eligible, needs to be beyond that pilot stage, but beyond that, any of that is eligible. And I would say we understand that policy takes a long time to affect. So you might have a SMARTIE goal in your application that is not related to the end goal you have for that policy project. That's okay. You can set that context in your SMARTIE goal. This is what we're aiming to achieve in this year. And that's going to ladder up to what we hope to do in future years. That's setting the stage for X, Y, and Z. Totally understand the timeline for those projects. I hope that answers the question.
That's great. And Jackie, I'm going to turn it back over to you in 60 seconds. There's a question here about education proposals, do they need to be in person only, or can they be online or hybrid? We are agnostic, so if you want to suggest something that is purely virtual, something that's purely in person, or both, please, by all means, just make sure to check eligibility and the FAQs page for the types of programs that would be suited. I think we hit all the big ones. The last one, Jackie, before I turn it over to you. One program, one very distinct program versus sort of components of a larger, more multifaceted program that an organization might be hosting. Both are fine and eligible. Again, just if you want more information and guidance, please just check out the FAQs, because at the end of the day, we're looking for sustainable solutions to address food justice for kids. What that means to you and how you and your community want to implement that, we are open. But again, there are eligibility. I want to make sure this aligns with not only what we're looking for, but what you're looking to do as well, right? So check out the eligibility, check out the FAQ about the types of projects that may or may not be a fit for this before you spend the time doing the application. All right. So I think that's it. So Jackie, over to you.
Yep, sure. I just wanted to take a moment to thank everyone for attending. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Christina to close us out with the session poll and announcements.